In 1990, Arizona became one of the main centers in the United States for radical Muslims, and it remained so through 9/11. One of the office centers was called the Maktab al-Khidmat, an extension of the Afghan Services Bureau located in Peshawar, Pakistan. A number of future al-Qaeda leaders live in Tucson in the early 1990s. One of them was Wadi al-Hajj, who had connections to the 1998 East Africa bombings, and Wael Juladdin, one of the primary founders of the Maktab al-Khidmat in Pakistan. One of the alleged 9/11 hijackers, Hani Hanjour, had moved to Arizona for the first time on October 3rd, 1991, where he would enter the University of Arizona and took up his major as engineering. He spent much of the decade in the state. The FBI apparently remained largely oblivious of Hanjour, though one FBI informant claimed that by 1998 they knew everything about the guy. However, in 1994, the Phoenix FBI office uncovers startling evidence connecting Arizona to radical Muslim militants. According to FBI agent James Hawsworth, they are told that a group of heavy duty associates of Al Qaeda leader Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman had arrived on the area. However, Rahman was not part of Al Qaeda. He was actually part and one of the co leaders of the Egyptian Islamist group, the Gamma Islamiyah. Rahman, however, did have some links to Al Qaeda associates inside the United States, although he was not intrinsically in part of Al Qaeda, nor did he swear bayat to bin Laden. However, they are in the area to recruit a suicide bomber. The recruit apparently is an FBI informant. FBI agent Ken Williams, who would later author the July 2001 Phoenix Memo, ordered surveillance of the training. The informant would later be named as Henry Allen, a former businessman who converted to Islam and went by his Muslim name Abu Yusuf, who had high credibility with the Muslims in Arizona because of his work on behalf of the Palestinian cause. He had important meetings with Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat in 1994 and began working as an FBI informant under Ken Williams. The informant is driven to a remote stretch of desert and instructed in how to use explosives. The device is thrown at a car, but it fails to explode. The FBI secretly videotapes the entire incident. One of the two men is later positively linked to Abdul Rahman. But apparently, the investigation into the people involved failed to make progress. Agent Hawsworth later blamed this on a lack of support from higher ups in the Phoenix office, recalling, quote, the drug war was the big thing back then, and terrorism was on the back burner, end quote. Informant Ellen had previously begun spying on a man known as Abu Saif, which apparently is his alias. Saif had come to Arizona from New Jersey in 1993 and bragged about having close ties with Al Qaeda and links with Omar Abdul Rahman and Ramzi Youssef. When Yusuf's computer was seized in the Philippines in 1995, there was a mention of a contact in Tucson, but it is unknown if this reference is to Saif or someone else. Saif attended the New Jersey Masjid al-Salam Mosque that many of the 1993 World Trade Center bombings also attended. Ellen soon seized the unnamed Algerian pilot who was training a number of Arabs in flight schools, along with Abu Saif. He tells this to Williams, Agent Williams, and will later claim that, quote, I told him to be very concerned about air schools, end quote. Ellen later believes that Williams should have sent the gist of his Phoenix memo at the time. Instead, 4.5 years later, Hani Hanjour is living in Phoenix, but his time had taken flight training lessons nearby. Ellen would later say he did not know Hanjour directly, but he knew some of his friends and relatives. The FBI field office in 1998 investigates a possible Middle Eastern extremist taking flight lessons at a Phoenix airport. Agent Williams initiates an investigation into the possibility of Islamic militants learning to fly aircraft, but he has no easy way to query a central FBI database about similar cases. Because of this and other FBI communication problems, He remains unaware of most U.S. intelligence reports about the potential use of airplanes as weapons, as well as other specific FBI warnings issued in 1998 and 1999 concerning Islamic militants training at U.S. flight schools. Also in 1998, bin Laden sent a fax from Afghanistan to Sheikh Omar Bakri Mohammed, a London based imam who dubs himself the mouth, eyes, and ears of Osama bin Laden. Bakri publicly releases what he calls bin Laden's 4 specific objectives for a holy war against the United States. The instruction read, quote, bring down their airliners, prevent the safe passage of their ships, occupy their embassies, force the closure of their companies and banks, end quote. Noting this, the Los Angeles Times will rarely comment that bin Laden hasn't been shy about sharing his game plan. However, in July of 2001, FBI agent Williams grew concerned about some Middle Eastern students training in flight schools and releases the Phoenix Memo on July 10th of 2001. The memo is entitled Zakaria Mustafa Sobra, IT Other, Islamic Army of the Caucasus, because the memo focused on Zakaria Subra, a Lebanese flight student in Prescott, Arizona, and his connection with a terror group in Chechnya that has ties to al-Qaeda. It is subtitled Osama bin Laden and al-Mujahideen supporters attending civil aviation universities, colleges in Arizona. Williams' memo is based on an investigation of Subra that Williams had begun in 2000, but he had trouble pursuing because of the low priority the FBI office in Arizona gave terror investigations. Additionally, Williams had been alerted to suspicions about radical militants and aircrafts at least 3 other times, in 1996, 98, and in 2001. In the memo, Williams does the following. Names 9 other suspects, students from Pakistan, India, Kenya, Algeria, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Hani Hanjour, attending flight school in Arizona in early 2001, notes that he interviewed some of these students and heard about some of them making hostile comments about the United States. Additionally, he noted that they were suspiciously well informed about security measures at U.S. airports. Notes an increasing inordinate number of individuals of investigative interest taking flight lessons in Arizona. Suspects that some of the 10 people he had investigated are connected to al-Qaeda, including one person on the list, Ghassan al-Sarbi, who would be arrested in Pakistan in March of 2002 with al-Qaeda leader Abu Zubaydah. Going back into 1999, there would be an incident regarding 2 people who tried to enter a plane in Arizona. 2 Saudis, Hamdan al-Shalawi and Mohammed al-Qudahin, are detained for trying to get into the cockpit on a passenger plane flying from Phoenix, Arizona to Washington, D.C., Delta Air. They claimed that they thought the cockpit was the bathroom and later sued the FBI for racism. However, after 9/11, the FBI considered the possibility that this was a dry run for the 9/11 attacks. In late 1999, it was discovered that the 2 men were traveling to Washington to attend a party at the Saudi embassy and that their ticket had been paid by the Saudi government. Apparently influenced by their government tier, the FBI decides not to prosecute or investigate the men. Al-Qudahin left the United States in 2000. As a result, their names were added to a no-fly watch list. In April 2000, Agent Williams, investigating Zakaria Subra, a suspected radical militant, and discovered that the car Subra is driving is actually owned by Al-Qudahin. Subra is friends with al-Shalawi and al-Qudahin. This and other evidence will influence Williams to write the infamous memo. After the 9/11 attacks, it is suspected that the CIA's Alex Station, which was a code name for the bin Laden issue station, never received Williams' memo. However, according to Doug Miller and Jack Clunan, both of the FBI I-49 unit, counterterrorism unit in New York, would later claim that it was indeed shared with the CIA's counterterrorism center. This was quoted in a 2006 book by author Lawrence Wright, The Looming Tower, in which he cited an interview with Jack Clunan. We'll say that Clunan did speak to Williams' supervisor in Phoenix about it. George Pirro and Ken Williams, two agents at the FBI field office in Phoenix, Arizona, just hours after the attacks at the World Trade Center, started to conduct their own investigation about these militants in flight schools, since Arizona has one of the largest amounts of flight schools in the United States. The first file they get is to go to the Sawyer School of Aviation at Sky Harbor in Phoenix. They ask a manager there if any suspicious students have attended recently. Almost without hesitation, she gives them the file of one such student, Hanjour. Hani Hanjour received training at the flight school between 98 and the summer of 2001. He allegedly flew Flight 77 into the Pentagon. Just after they received the file, Pirro receives a call on the cell phone from an agent from the FBI's Boston office. The agent, who is currently at Logan International Airport, says he has a name from the passenger manifest of Flight 77 that the Phoenix agent should look into. To Agent Pirro's surprise, he's quoted, "I'm holding the file in my hands right now," end quote. Pirro later tells the squad leader at the office that he identified one of the hijackers, to which the squad leader replied, "Get out of here. I don't have time for jokes today." In November of 2002, the 9/11 Congressional Inquiry was finishing its investigation and formally asked for a report by the Justice Department to determine whether and to what extent personnel at all levels should be held accountable. The Justice Department report, entitled, quote, "A Review of the FBI's Handling of Intelligence Information Related to the September 11th Attacks," end quote, completed in the month of July of 2004. It centered on three FBI failures before 9/11. One, the failure to follow up on the arrest of Zacarias Moussaoui in August of 2001. Two, warning about Islamic militants training in U.S. flight schools. Three, the failure to follow up on FBI agents Ken Williams' memo. The problem belongs with the superiors of the FBI and those who control the FBI from the State Department on a political level. The question is, why was the investigation into 9/11 impeded and stalled